Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm Jacqueline and I'm glad to have you back. If this is your first time, please feel free to review the first episode, which provides an overview of the channel. So if you're following me, you know that I am an advocate for self-study. The word tells us to get wisdom and to get understanding. And once again, please research and study for yourself and don't just take someone else's word. So when I began to come into the truth of who we are as a people, I began to interject myself into Scripture according to my heritage. And that is when Scripture really began to come alive for me. It is not possible to receive the fullness of the gospel until the truth of its origins are established. In a sense, we basically picked up remnants of a distorted version of our history and just went with it. This presentation is going to help you to begin to interject yourself, not just into Scripture contained in the presentation, but with all of Scripture. You just have to study and connect the dots. Understanding will begin to leap off of the pages for you. Now, I have put together a little presentation, and this is going to help you to begin to identify yourself and those of the 12 tribes in Scripture. So let's get started. The following presentation provides insight into Scriptures as they relate to those referred to as African Americans in the United States and the transatlantic slave trade. It also references modern-day Egypt. According to Scripture, the Most High promised to scatter the nation of Israel to the four corners of the earth. African Americans are only one of the melanated groups who were scattered, as prophesied in Scripture. We also remember our ancestors who were scattered through the Eastern slave trade as well. Also keep in mind that when reading Scripture, passages can be literal or make use of both simile and metaphoric figures of speech. Prior to his death, Moses basically gives the nation of Israel an ultimatum, which is to live righteous and holy, or to suffer the curses that will come upon them if they choose to disobey. In the book of Judges, the nation of Israel begins a downward spiral due to their disobedience, idolatrous behavior, and the worship of other gods. They were gradually conquered and began to be carried away into captivity. In the book From Babylon to Timbuktu, it references that an estimated 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing the Roman persecution. Some of the curses of Deuteronomy 28 reference earlier years of the nation's collapse. Others are more specific to latter years, and others overlap. The curses outlined in this presentation span a 400-year period. Beginning in 1619, the first group of slaves arrived in Jamestown, Virginia. In 2019, the coronavirus outbreak began, marking the end of the 400-year period of enslavement prophesied in the book of Genesis. In Scripture, the word slavery is synonymous with bondage, and is representative of its many forms in the United States. The year 2019 signaled the timing of a curse reversal and the awakening of the nation of Israel. Many countries benefited from the slave trade. However, the U.S. is where you will find the greatest concentration of those from the tribe of Judah in North America, and that bondage was the most brutal of all. After the first Exodus, the tribe of Judah became the most important of the tribes. From the loins of Judah was birthed King David, King Solomon, and most importantly, the Messiah. When going into battle, the Most High instructed Judah to lead the way. The captivity of the southern tribes into the Americas, Scripture confirms that groups from the northern tribes, including Native Americans and Mexicans, had already migrated to the Americas. Note, Columbus did not discover America. The Israelites were already here. About Scripture, the Most High promises to avenge the nation of Israel in the last days. End-time plagues will mirror those that occurred prior to the first Exodus. Review the following slides. As you will see, judgment has begun and precedes the second Exodus. The following passages will assist you in identifying groups from the 12 tribes within the U.S. They contain some of the curses listed in Deuteronomy 28 that have plagued African Americans during the past 400 years. We will review the curse as well as the outcome. The Lord will bring a nation against you from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies, a nation whose language you will not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which does not respect the elderly nor show favor to the young. The outcome of that curse. This passage describes slave voyages originating from the Americas, bringing captured slaves back to the U.S. for trade. The word eagle represents the U.S. with its national bird being the bald eagle. When slaves arrived, they did not understand the English language. Slave owners showed no mercy based on age. The next curse and scripture, Deuteronomy 28:68. And the Lord will take you back to Egypt in ships, and there you shall be offered for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will redeem you. The outcome of this curse, this passage makes reference to modern-day Egypt and the transatlantic slave trade ship voyages. Upon arrival to the destination, slaves were sold on the open market as if they were cattle or crops, and no one would intervene. Our next screen, the curse and the scripture. Deuteronomy 28:30. You shall betroth a wife, but another man shall lie with her. The outcome, slave owners commonly had sexual relationships with female slaves, even if the female was married to another slave. Our next slide, the curse and the scripture. Deuteronomy 28:41. You shall beget sons and daughters, but they shall not be yours, for they shall go into captivity. The outcome of that curse, slaves had no control over their children being sold to other slave owners and to different plantations. The next slide, the curse and the scripture, Deuteronomy 28:48. Therefore you shall serve your enemies, whom the Lord will send against you, in hunger, in thirst, in nakedness, and in need of everything. He will put a yoke of iron on your neck until he has destroyed you. The outcome of that curse, slaves endured hunger and thirst. They were stripped naked and humiliated. Just like the scripture says, they were in need of everything. Chains were used to keep slaves bound, and they were also used as a mechanism to break the spirit. The next slide, the curse and the scripture, Deuteronomy 28:64 through 65. The Lord will scatter you among all peoples, from one end of the earth to the other, and there you shall serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, of wood and of stone. The outcome of this curse, as it relates to the U.S., the second part of this scripture refers to the religious system which was set up by the Roman Catholic Church with its statues and relics. Referred to in scripture as the Great Abominable Church, it was a major player in the slave trade. Although Protestantism brought about Reformation, pagan symbolism and traditions remained intact. The next slide, the curse and the scripture. Deuteronomy 28:66. You shall fear day and night and have no assurance of life. The outcome of this curse, slaves were always fearful that they could be killed at any time for any reasons. Beatings and lynchings were common. Our next slide, the curse and the scripture. Deuteronomy 28:43 through 44. The alien who is among you shall rise higher and higher above you, and you shall come down lower and lower. He shall lend to you, but you shall not lend to him. He shall be the head, and you shall be the tail. The outcome of this scripture? In North America, more specifically the United States, the word alien is being used to describe enslavers and the fact that the land was stolen from the natives who were already here. In other words, it is an occupation of land belonging to another group. Also, this describes the predatory financial system which keeps the African American in financial bondage. Our next slide, the curse and the scripture, Deuteronomy 28:37. You shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations where the Lord will drive you. The next curse and scripture, Deuteronomy 28:59. The Lord will bring upon you and your descendants extraordinary plagues, great and prolonged plagues, and serious and prolonged sicknesses. The outcome refers to violence, drugs, poverty, illnesses such as high blood pressure, HIV, sickle cell anemia, and heart disease. Viewers, that will be all for today. As always, research and study for yourself. Continue to find yourself and your history in the scriptures. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Shalom, family. Have a wonderful day.